It's Tuesday, May 31st, 2016. I'm Greg Watkins, the editor at WorthPoint, and this is WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. How are you doing today, Harry?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a fun time of the year. It's graduation time, whether it's college or high school or whatever, between the early part of May and the middle of June, everybody seems to graduate. But, it's a kind of interesting thing. As I was thinking about that, I was thinking, what do I know about graduation collectibles? And now I'm thinking, are there any? As you sit up in the thing, you always see these wonderful mortar boards, with all these writings, get me a job, and, finally out of here and that type of thing. What if anybody's ever collected them? Because I don't know of anybody.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
That's an interesting thing. You'll have to, one of these times, check the Worthopedia and see if we have mortar board collectibles in there. I mean, there's not really graduation collectibles. I mean, nobody collects graduation cards or any of the rest of that type of stuff that I'm aware of. And diplomas are a dog on the marketplace. No, seriously. It's kind of interesting when you get involved with any of this stuff and you're in my position and you ask yourself, hey, is there something collectible? Well, I've got a number of the old diplomas that were in my family from at the end of the 19th, early part of the 20th century. And some of the old college diplomas are interesting, and even some high school, because there are steel-cut engravings or lithographic engravings of the buildings. And so I suppose in that community there may be some collectability, but other than that, unless the frame is worth money, they're junkable stuff. And it seems a shame, really, to some extent about that. But I don't know of anybody who's made a habit of collecting old college diplomas or whatever. Now, I suppose, I collect Lehigh stuff because that's my undergraduate university, and I suppose if I ran across an old Lehigh diploma out there in the marketplace, I might buy it, provided it was $5. $25, I'm not that loyal.
Well, what do you think about? I guess it depends on who the diploma is for, because Albert Einstein's diploma might be worth something.
Well, that's right. Yes, but I can assure you that when I die, nobody is going to be bidding on my high school diploma.
Okay.
And that's an interesting whole point of all of this. And now, of course, it's kind of silly because I think my grandson Ian down in Charlotte is graduating from 3rd grade or something, and now they're having a ceremony, and so we not only have just high school diplomas and college diplomas, but we now have 3rd grade and 6th grade and whatever grade oddball diplomas, so we'll be diplomaed to death in the secondary market before it's all over. Well, enough of this cheery stuff. Let's talk about some things going on in the trade. Let's start with the National Geographic ran an interesting story in its, let's see here, its June issue called Tomb Raiders Looting the World's Ancient Treasures. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, this isn't something that's just happened recently. I mean, talk to the Romans. they looted like heck in Greece, but the Greeks were very clever because when the Greeks found out that the Romans were looking for old Greek statuary, the Greek fakers said, hey, you want some Greek statues? Man, we'll give you some Greek statues, and they cranked out fakes left and right. Now, this whole issue of archaeological looting has come to the fore recently, largely because of the recession at the beginning of the 21st century, and also the fact that there seems to be, with the internet and everything else, a growing market in these illegal things. Now, many countries have their, now, slow down. Go back to those two pictures. Now, these are from the Smithsonian article, and you can see on the left a picture taken about 10 years ago showing an archaeological site where, if you look at the picture on the right, I don't know if we can blow them up or not. If you look at the picture on the right, what you're going to see is potholes everywhere. In the last 10 years, this site has just been devastated by people that are doing this. And I have to tell you, this whole, it's not just this type of stuff. I mean, I don't know if you read in the papers here the other day that there you can see all the potholes around the picture on the right there.
Yes. So those are all new digs, right?
It's like a 10-year difference. I know, it's not even that, 2001 to 2014. I mean, this has gotten really mad. And then there was an article in the paper recently about a National Park Service Civil War site that had been burgled of stuff. These so-called potholders are interesting from several methods. First of all, as these countries have fallen into hard times, these people are doing this to make money. Second of all, with ISIS over there, with the blowing up and destruction of Palmyra and so forth, this is where I don't have a lot of respect for ISIS. At least they could have done is sawed the stuff apart and sold it on the secondary marketplace. But now they choose to blow it up. I suppose maybe integrally that's better, but no, not really. But the other thing was that what was interesting is in the National Geographic article, and this is where I really need to take time to do that, there's this bowl full of artifacts from Egypt, and the cut line says, a jumble of artifacts, some possibly fake, are offered for sale at an antiquarian shop in northwest Syria. Forged antiquities are a major industry in many countries where they are fobbed off on unwary buyers used to conceal real antiques during shipment and even substituted for original pieces in museums. Now, there you are. There's that picture. Well, you know what? This has been a problem ad infinitum. The Smithsonian, or was it National Geographic, maybe 15 years ago, ran an article about the fake shops in Thailand, faking Buddhas and all these other type of things. And I know when I was in Mexico down years ago, maybe 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, down in Cancun, and we went down to Uxmal and Chichen Itza and those sites. There were kids selling stuff along the road claiming they just dug it up. Well, yeah, they dug it up 2 days ago because they buried it 4 days before that. And no, seriously. And when I go out to do appraisal clinics, inevitably I see these antiquaries, and they have all kinds of wonderful stories. My father was in Chile or Egypt and something like that in the 1930s, and he befriended Farouk Wukts, whatever his name is, and lo and behold, why he brought these back. And chances are they're probably fake, because you look at them, and the first question you say, well, if it's supposed to have been buried in the ground for 5,000 years or maybe a couple thousand years, you'd expect it would have a little damage. But when they look brand new, the rule that we teach in authenticating class, if it looks new, assume it is new. So you don't see any wear or damage to these things, so they're pretty well faked out. But then early in my career of collecting, I had a dealer come to me and offer me some Egyptian artifacts, and this is what he told me. Oh, these were stolen from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And, what are you supposed to say? I'll buy them? No. But you know what? Even that isn't good provenance, because obviously you can't go back to the museum and say, are these yours? And the other thing is, it's a fine way to pass off fakes. So it's really a sad thing in this, because the article in the Smithsonian, what makes the article fascinating is that it talks about the role of collectors in all of this. What is the role of collectors buying this stuff? Well, one of the interesting things is that not from a collector, but from one of the museum curators came this really strange justification argument that, hey, if we buy these things, at least we're preserving them. We're saving them for posterity, okay? And here's the analogy they used. They said, well, if your child was a hostage, would you pay money to the kidnapper to get him back? He said, well, these antiquities are hostages, and we're paying money to get them back. I'm thinking, wow, talk about making inanimate objects animate. My goodness, what are they going to do with the object? Shoot it? Bury it? I mean, I don't know. But the article raises a lot of really fascinating questions about preserving the past. And it doesn't just apply to antiquities. I usually can duck the whole antiquities issue by saying, look, antiques and collectibles start with the Renaissance. And that, by the way, is really a true statement. We, in the Antiques and Collectibles shows, tend to use 1450 as a date forward when we deal with things, and anything before that we take a hands-off attitude to. But I can't help but get involved with this kind of thing, so I had some friends that dealt with it and what have you. But anyway, that's the June 2016 article, National Geographic, Tomb Raiders Looting the World's Antique Treasures. And by the way, it's not just about Egypt, it's about Peru, where they're digging up graves in Peru and selling the textiles off and all kinds of stuff. So some of our listeners, viewers, I have to remember what the right word is. Listeners if you're on radio, viewers if you're on video. It was a big issue when I used to film Collector Inspector. I would occasionally say, listeners, and they would say, stop the cameras, halt, we got to do that segment over. All right, but enough of all of this. We got some pictures to look at again this week. But by the way, we really want to encourage our viewers, those people reading the WorthPoint newsletter, to get stuff in from them as opposed to from my files. But I had an interesting thing. I got a request from somebody to look at a painting by a painter named Anthony Butcha, B-U-T-C-H-A, okay? And here, we're going to put it up on the screen here in a second.
Yeah, I'm having technical difficulties here. It won't.
A little technical difficulty was because it's a bad painting, but no. But no. So
I'll get it up there as soon as I can.
Okay, we'll get it up there. But much to my surprise, after seeing the painting, I thought, well, this isn't going to go very far. But much to my surprise, Mr. Anthony Butcha grew up in Iowa and painted around Broome County, Indiana. And he is a desirable Indiana state artist in Indiana. His stuff sells within about a 100-mile radius of Indianapolis. And if that painting is about Indianapolis, man, that's really a good thing. He was kind of a semi-realistic landscape painter. Now, the painting that I was asked to look at was a painting of a farmhouse with some chickens in the front in the Ozarks in there. You're still looking for them, are you?
Yeah, I know where it is. I just haven't
All right, well, we're getting a little time getting. Well, anyway, let me talk about this. So I go up and I start researching this guy in the net, and I find out that there's a gallery in Indianapolis and a collector in Indianapolis that really wants to buy these things. But then when you go check the auction records of this guy, they range from a couple $100 to $6,000. Now, you know what happens when anybody's going to do research work. I got me one of them 6,000 ones, not one of those $200 ones. And so this is where you come to the thing where you have to really, when you're valuing something, get very sophisticated about how it works. And in this particular case, this is a farmhouse with a bunch of chickens in front of it in the Ozarks. Well, first of all, the Ozarks aren't in Iowa and Indiana where he was noted as a painter, but hey, Missouri's okay too. And I'm sure for the people in the Ozarks it would be nice. But it's really not one of his landscape scenes. And when you looked at what sold, it was larger landscape paintings. But he was also a watercolorist. And so there were a lot of his watercoloring. So when you start looking at prices, you had to look real carefully at, first of all, what was the medium the painting was done in? Was it oil on canvas, or was it a watercolor, or what was it? And then what was its size? And then finally, what was its subject matter? And this is the problem with named anything. No one ever asked if Picasso had a bad day. Now, I'm the kind of guy that would go in a museum and look at a Picasso piece and said, Picasso had a bad day today. This is really ugly. Now, that doesn't always sit well with a lot of museum curators when I do this, obviously and clearly. But the truth of the matter is that it really is an issue. And I believe that painters can often have very bad days. They may have had a headache. They may have been drinking the night before. But, you know, people look at the name and not the quality of the painting and so forth. So, you know, I always try to tell people, think of a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most desirable and 1 being the least desirable. And then try to come up with an understanding of where this painting fits on that scale. Well, this was about a 3, maybe a 4 if you were really nice about it, and maybe a 5 if you're in the Ozarks, because the locals put more value on it than anything else. But the point is that this is not one of his $6,000 paintings. It's not one of his $2,000 paintings either. I advised the clients that showed that asked me about it to think maybe $600 to $800 if they're lucky. But then they say, well, where can we get that? And I said, well, if you send it to the auctioneer is going to take a commission. And I said, if you send it to a gallery, they're going to take 50%. Well, then they said, but this guy has a good track record in Indianapolis, and there are several galleries in that area, and also that's where the art gallery was that was selling. And I said, but this is the Ozarks. And they said, well, what would you do? I said, well, I try to get it closer to the Ozarks, send it down to St. Louis or do something with it. So when you're trying to figure out value, you also got to look at the regional marketplace and where something is likely to have the most appeal. Sorry about that noise in the background. I forgot to turn my phone off. I will totally ignore the call
Okay.
while we're doing this. Have any luck on finding those pictures, Greg?
Well, I've got a plug-in problem. I know exactly where the photos are, but I can't break in to share them.
Can we put the screen up for telling people where to write to us?
I can't get any of that right now.
Well, you know what? The antiques and collectibles trade is visual, but visual can also be by word. So we'll plow on here, and maybe in one of the future shows we'll show the picture involved. I do want to show something that I know we can see, right? I got an interesting book in the other day. Now, interesting enough, it's not a book in the way that you would think of a book. It's a book on a CD. This is a fellow named Brian Powell who collected non-bubble gum. Now, I hate to say non-gum cards, baseball cards. But back in the 1950s, besides the standard Topps and Bowman series and Fleer series, there were companies like cereal companies and other companies that did baseball cards on wiener packs, hot dog packs. And these cards have all of a sudden started to become very collectible. And this guy has devoted his life to documenting these non-gum cards from the baseball industry. And he did a CD, and I know we have a little reflection problem here. We'll try to do the best we can. Never Cheaper by the Dozen. And this CD is really a 468-page book. In fact, that's why it's not a book. The poor guy went out to try to price it and get it out there, and unfortunately what happened was the cost to publish it was over 60 bucks, 70 bucks. So what he's done is he's created a CD, which is much more affordable, and I want to encourage our people to get a pencil and paper handy, because I'm going to give out an address. If you love these old baseball cards and you're building a library, and hey, guess what? Well, we'll get to that. Let me finish up this one here. You will get to these baseball cards. You can write to him, Brian Powell, Brian Powell, Post Office Box 743, Newcastle, Indiana 46552. That's Brian Powell, Powell, P.O. Box 743, Newcastle. Those are two words. New Carlisle. I'm sorry, New Carlisle. N-E-W, capital C-A-R-L. ISLE, Indiana 46552, and ask about his CD and he'll send you some information, and you might consider buying it. Well, back in the you better believe we finally got it up on the air. We have the painting by Anthony Butcha. Here it is. Now, again, this is one of those cases where, as you look at things, you have to always say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is this painting? Well, forget the fact that chickens are semi-in right now. I mean, look at it. It's like clearly the fellow has academic training, but, is this the kind of picture you'd hang in your front room? Really? I mean, I suppose if you collect Anthony Butcha paintings, or you live in the Ozarks and want one of his paintings, maybe, but the truth is that the vast majority will not. It was well documented. I mean, that was a nice thing about it. And this guy was apparently fairly prolific. Do we have the picture of the back of this? Or we should be happy with just the first one? Yeah. You can see, what's nice about this one is back when it was originally bought, and actually what happened was it was won in a raffle. Somebody bought some tickets at a raffle, and this was one of the prizes. There you can see Dawn in the Ozarks by Anthony Butcha, price $300 new. This is an original painting. Now, you have to always be careful about these darn words, original. They get me all worked up sometimes. What's original? Everything's original if you stop and think about it. But you can see at the bottom of it, it talks about winner of in a number of shows and stuff. But, there's no question what it is. Clearly, it's from the 1930s. I mean, the guy was painting around that time, and maybe even a little bit later. And now let me look at my notes here. He died in 1967, but my guess is this may be from the late 40s or 50s. But there it is, well documented. But the question is, what is it worth? Well, in the areas where they care about this guy, which is Missouri and Iowa and Indiana, it's got a worth of $600 to $800. If that was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's good size, by the way. You always get frustrated when people don't tell me the sizes, but this size is 36 by 31, so it's, I mean, it's a good size painting and so forth. But if that was in Michigan, if you could get 100 to a couple $100 for it, man, that's a heck of a lot. Just a heck of a lot, really, on that. So we've got that painting. We talked a little bit about that CD. We've got another object I want to look at too. Oh, there you go. Hey.
Yeah, before we get there, let's talk about how to submit your items.
Well, go ahead and talk about it.
Okay. Well, if you have an item that you'd like Harry to identify and evaluate, send your photographs and everything you know about the item to community@worthpoint.com. And when we say photographs, we'd like several views, an overview, something that shows the size comparison next to a soda can or a quarter or whatever you can give to give perspective.
Bills, dollar bills.
Dollar bills, and then send those along.
Or a $100 bill, either one.
And then everything you know about it, where you acquired the item, what you paid for it is always good for us to know, and we will tell you what you got.
Yeah, and what's wonderful with this email, community@worthpoint.com, is that we can do a little work ahead of time and see where we got. I don't know if you ran Mr. Butch's name in the Worthopedia or not, but my guess is if you did, you'd probably find something
Right.
With him in there. Although the vast majority of the things I sold on that were available, the information came from the gallery in Indianapolis, and that is the kind of thing you often find at secondary listings rather than primary ones, but there it is. Well, we got another letter in, this one from one of our friends in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and he has this desk. Now, you probably would take one look at this and not think of this as a desk, but this is a desk made by the Heckman Furniture Company of Grand Rapids, and it's in a French style, more or less, a lot less than more actually. But there you can see the top. The centerpiece folds down. The sides are for storage. There must have been a chair that went with it historically, and it was lost. And it has a nice label on the back. We'll come back to the style of the desk in a minute. So, of course, you know, I type in Heckman, H-E-K-M-A-N. I type in Heckman. There you go, Heckman Furniture Company. Was delighted to see it was from Grand Rapids because I live in Kentwood, just outside of Grand Rapids, and I always love doing research work about Grand Rapids pieces. So I'm reading this kind of bio of this guy when Edsko Heckman ventured from the Netherlands to Grand Rapids. Now, you have to understand that when we talk about the Dutch in Grand Rapids, we mean the Dutch, as in from Holland, as opposed to the Pennsylvania Germans, the Pennsylvania Deutsch, that became Dutch during World War II. But anyway, he wanted to be a furniture maker. So I'm thinking, okay, there it is. But in the panic of 1893, he gave up furniture making, became a baker, selling cookies door to door. And he eventually went on to found the Heckman Biscuit Company, which was later to become the Keebler Company. Isn't that a neat piece of fact?
Wow,
So
the
question is,
long
you know,
road to get there.
well, the question is, while he's making crackers, what's he doing making furniture? Well, and the answer is this. He did make furniture. His kids did. In 1922, his sons, he had three sons, John, Jelly, J-E-L-L-E, and Henry, created the Heckman Furniture Company. And it's still in business. Still in business. Not making this type of stuff anymore. So let's go back here to the original piece here. So, you know, you look at this, and the first thing you have to say is, well, when was this made? Well, first of all, that finish you see on the side doors is veneer, obviously. It's one of those type of colonial revival pieces where there's so many influences from the waterfall kind of veneering on the sides to a Renaissance revival cartouche in the drawer to feet that are strange to say the least. And so whenever you see that, you're immediately going to think 1920s, 1930s. Now, this piece obviously has seen better days. And so when somebody says, what is it worth, what you have to be careful about is, well, what is it worth as we're looking at it? Well, right now, if somebody gave the person who owned this $50 or $100 for it, that'd be great. But this is one of those pieces where I think with a little bit of renewage, there's a lot of furniture renewage products out there on the marketplace. You know what I'm talking about? Where they can snap up a piece, and a lot of dealers have learned to use it. My feeling is that, first of all, maybe a little soap and water might not hurt it either. But the thing about it is, once you've cleaned off the dirt, and if you're going to put soap and water on these pieces, please do not wash them with a brush and a hose. That's not good for wood. But what you could do is, you wipe them gently and do it by sections and get it off, and get off the surface dirt. And then use one of these products, these Renewage products, and I think it would snap it up, at which point you're probably looking at, I don't know, a $350 to $450 desk, maybe a little bit more. Also, this desk is out in Council Bluffs, Missouri. I guess we're into Missouri big time today with that painting beam from the Ozarks. But the point of the matter is that this is a good place for it, because this type of furniture has a much higher desirability out in that area than it does in the East. And this, again, is one of these whole questions about regional marketplaces. Where is the best regional marketplace to sell stuff? So there we go, a fun piece. He called it a French provincial style, and I'm not so sure, given the shape, that would be not a bad style to assign it to. It's clearly not any one of the major colonial styles and the major American styles, so it has a bit, but it is a stretch to say it's a key French style. But so much of this furniture was a combination of elements, so we have that. Well, we're going to end today, okay?
Yeah.
Talking about the losers.
Losers. Which losers are we talking about?
Just when you think there's no idiots left. I mean, and I have to tell you, by the way, did I ever tell you that I recently did a study of the words imbecile, moron, or idiot to see if there was a pecking order? So
yeah.
if I wanted to call somebody something, I knew which one of the three to pick.
Right.
Are you ready for this?
Okay, I'm taking notes.
It goes imbecile, moron, idiot.
And which one is the...
The idiot has an IQ of 0 to 25.
Okay.
Moron, 26 to 50. The imbecile, 51 to 75. Except, guess what? In this age of political correctness, right?
Right.
These terms are no longer acceptable. They now assume that you can't have an IQ less than 40, so the IQ from 40 to about 65 or 70 is extremely challenged. I guess if you're in the 70s, you're just challenged. So just so you know.
Okay. I'm going to file that away.
Just when you think we're done with all these silly card sets after the baseball debacles and the NASCAR debacles, doesn't someone decide, are you ready for this, to issue a Decision 2016 presidential trading card set? For voters who are tired of a lack of choice among the threesome of Clinton, Sanders, and Trump, there is an alternative. Gary Johnson, John McAfee, and Jill Stein. Who the heck are they? Well, except that Gary Johnson is now a Libertarian candidate. Is pulling almost 20%, so it's there. But anyway, they have this set that provides information about these candidates and their wives, and gosh knows what other information you want to do. And there are, and you're going to, ready for this, there are 110 quality cards featuring 60 politicians, capturing key moments of the 2016 campaign. I can't imagine a key moment for Jeb Bush, but we won't go there. Full color and available, and this is what astonished me when I heard it, available at Target, Walmart, and Amazon. Okay, so you might ask, what do these things cost, right?
I can.
Yes, well, I can
wait.
see you.
Tell me.
You're waiting at bated breath for this one, aren't you, sir?
I am.
Yes, well, a single pack is $2. Well, $1.99, $2.
And how many cards are in a pack?
I didn't say. My guess is 5, but we would hope it would be 5. But nevertheless, who cares? Then there is a blaster box, 12 packs for $19.95. But there's a Decision retail box for $39.95. And the top of the line is the hobby box with exclusive inserts selling for $89.95. Now,
Does that guarantee a
my
complete
advice by anyone who's attempted to buy any one of these forms of these cards, and that is don't. Because interestingly enough, the question is, who collects the losers? I have a lot of friends that collect political buttons, and political memorabilia. I don't want to say political buttons, but political things. I mean, I can tell you there is not a big demand for Dukakis material at the moment. Okay, seriously. And Miller Schreiber doesn't do very well either. Okay? So the situation is very simple. Yes, the rarest political button does involve a loser, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And you say, well, he didn't lose. Yes, he did. He was the vice presidential candidate in 1920 with Cox. And the so-called Jugend button, the one with both their pictures on there, sells very well. But the matter is that when you go back and you start thinking about, now, who ran against who when? Okay? And you say, well, who were the losers? I mean, who can tell you who were the vice presidential candidates that ran against Coolidge or Harding or Taft? Or not Taft, or Wilson, or any of those people. I mean, come on, the losers, they're losers. That's why they didn't win. And so stuff associated with them often would be, please, please, don't do this. Although I did write them and say if they were willing to put the guys that developed the set in the air and send me a $90 box, I might talk to them, but we won't go there. Just to cover my bases.
Okay.
Well, you know what? If you watch this show, you're not a loser, right?
That's right. You're learning.
Videos, you know that you're going to pick up a lot of good information week to week. And we are going to be a little later next week. Next Tuesday, we're going to do the show at 3 o'clock. That's Tuesday, June the 7th. I have to go to the Gerald Ford Museum, Presidential Museum. I'm a volunteer there here in Grand Rapids. And I will be there. And I have to be there from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 in the afternoon because the new renovated museum is opening. Also want to remind all of you, Antiques and Collectibles Summer Camp is coming up July 11th through the 16th. 3 two-day courses, one on researching antiques and collectibles, one on painting watercolors and prints, and the final one on toys, games, and puzzles. Go to my website, harryrinker.com, click on the Institute logo. You'll see information about the courses and the registration form. We hope we're going to see a number of WorthPoint subscribers there, and we'll end this week as we always do. Greg, what's going on with WorthPoint?
Well, we are just chugging along, uploading more data into the Worthopedia and into the Marks database, and within the Marks, we're really adding more maker's marks and things like China patterns. So if you have China that you're not, there's no way to identify it other than the picture that's along the rim of the China, you can search that by keyword on the Marks database and possibly find a match on that.
You have that special feature called Maps, which is marks, autographs, patterns, and symbols, right? Right.
That's the Marks database is transitioning into this Maps product. And as we were adding more patterns and autographs and symbols, that's what the new name of the product is going to be.
All right, well, we'll talk to you next week. Remember, next week, Tuesday, June 7th, we will be doing this live at 3 o'clock, not 2 o'clock, for those of you that like to watch along with us as we record this. Also, when we record this, there's that little chat message box along the right. I mean, you can send us a message, and we can talk to you. We can respond to that as well. Greg, have a great week.
Yeah, you too, Harry. See you next week at 3 o'clock.